Well, good day, everybody. It's Dr. A back in the garden, and I can hardly wait to share some stories from the garden. Because a garden is not just a bunch of plants. A garden is history, it's what you're doing today, it's beauty. But oh, I tell you what, there are so many cool stories from the garden. Let me share one with you today. I'm going to talk about this plant that we see all over the roadsides, and we actually see them in nurseries because, believe it or not, people sell them, and hopefully we buy a few, and that's Joe Pye weed. And my question today, was there really a man called Joe Pye? Where did that name come from? And to answer the question, the short answer is yes, there was. There was a real person that went under the name of Joe Pye. In fact, he was a Mohegan Indian and an herbalist. He lived in the late 1700s near Stockbridge, Massachusetts. And he was an herbalist, meaning that he believed that there were so many natural plants that could help in the healing process. And he would show what we call the settlers what plants to use. One of the herbs that Joseph recommended was a plant that would actually help in the treatment of typhoid fever and whooping cough. And this particular plant, he had a whole bunch of them, but this was a plant called Eupatorium. One of the first mention of Joe Pye's weed was provided by a Mohegan writer, Samson Occom, who in July of 1787 went to Joseph Pye, whose native name was Shakwithakwat, and had a very agreeable conversation with him. And Joseph's plant induced sweating and was useful in the treatment of a number of ailments. The first printed reference to the common name, Joe Pye weed, appeared in Amos Eaton's Manual of Botany in the year 1818, in which he referred to the plant as Joe Pye from the name of an Indian. Its medicinal use became more accepted in the third edition of Amos Eaton's well-known book, and that came out in 1822, when he mentioned that President Zebediah Swift Moore, the second president of Williams College in Western Massachusetts, ascribed his recovery from a very alarming fever to the liberal and continued use of a tea made with these plants. So yes, there was such a person as Joe Pye, and Eupatorium became known as Joe Pye's weed, shortened to the common name used today. And one of the finest accounts, if you want to read a bit more, is Joseph's interaction with this plant was written by Richard Pierce, and I'll put that at the end of this. By the way, Eupatorium comes in a whole lot of flavors. We know the purple one is Eupatorium purpureum, but the white one, which we call bone set, was also Joe Pye's weed and very effective at calming coughing, such as whooping cough, and it calmed the bones and thus became known as bone set. Both these Eupatoriums referred to as Joe Pye's weed. And so to answer the question, yes, there really was a man called Joe Pye, and yes, there really is a story about Joe Pye's weed. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this little story from the garden, and you can follow me and go to my website and just get all sorts of information about what I'm up to and what a garden is all about. And I look forward to sharing the next story with you in the next edition of Stories from the Garden. All the best.